Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us.
David Kyle Foster was a young actor, like so many, heading off to find out what he could do in Los Angeles, and his road took some very interesting turns, and he's with us today. I want to get into his story because right now it took him to being the founder of Mastering Life Ministries. David, it's good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
All right. Now, I don't want to get anything wrong here. So I was right about you heading off to Los Angeles, but there's a whole lot behind that and the motivation why you were heading there. How many years ago was this?
Well, I went to L.A. in 1773.
Well, that was a long time ago, yeah.
1973.
73.
And I was in Hollywood for 7 years.
Now, a lot of kids head off to Hollywood and all the rest, but you had something you were trying to get away from, wasn't it? I mean, where were you living at the time before you left to Hollywood?
Well, I had been in college, and I had been heavily on drugs, several suicide attempts. So I was mentally and emotionally very much a basket case. So after college, I just decided to go out to Hollywood to chase the fantasy of being an actor.
How'd that work out?
It's shockingly, I got the first part I read for, and it was a starring role in the movie. So it was very quickly successful, and that sustained itself. I got a second starring role in another movie and several featured roles. I had lots of national commercials. I had some of the best agents in town. So that side of things was going really well. It was the other side that was the problem. It was the secret life that I was living as a male prostitute.
Did that begin to occur when you got to Los Angeles, or what was the sequence of events here?
It began at the end of college. I was begging God to take away my homosexual attractions. I went to talk to him at a pier in the town I lived in, and it turned out to be where male prostitutes hung out. And so I just, despite God for not helping me, I decided to do it. And when I got in the car with the first man, he turned to me and told me that I was beautiful and that I was handsome and that I was strong and masculine and all the things that I had longed for my father to tell me. When this man said those things to me, I instantly became addicted to hearing more of that and continuing on with the prostitution.
So do you see it as the basis of the problem you had with your father that helped feed into this, obviously? Was it more than that? Yeah, there was a number of factors, as there are with any homosexual. I did not bond emotionally with my father. He was very severe and distant, and he did not hug, he did not affirm, he did not tell me he loved me. He thought he was doing the right thing because that's how he had been brought up, and the fear that he had was that he would create pride in me if he affirmed me. So he thought he was doing the right thing. For me, it was exactly the wrong thing. So I grew up with a desperate father wound and need for affection from a father figure. I also had a fear of women that was created by a woman in our family environment who looked like Marilyn Monroe, but she would mercilessly tease me about girls and girlfriends and things. So it instilled in me a fear that a sexually mature woman was going to humiliate me as a little boy. So I had this fear of woman. I had this need for male affection, healthy male affection. Then I had a pornography problem, and then puberty hit. So all of these things were clashing all at once. And then you end up going to school, like you said, in college, and you take all of that with you to Los Angeles. I can't imagine that would have helped any of those situations.
No, I had to hitchhike into Hollywood to look for an agent and to go on auditions, and I was propositioned every time I was picked up. There's a lot of predators in Hollywood, and so I was instantly thrust back into the decision whether to continue that and those affirmations that I desperately needed, or not. And I decided to continue doing it just because I was angry at God, and I needed those affirmations. On the acting side, even though I was successful, you get one great acting role out of 25 auditions. So most of it is rejection, even if you're being successful. So there I was.
All right, I want to mention, we're talking with David Kyle Foster. He's the author of a book called Love Hunger, and I noticed that you have a few with you behind there. What is it that you want people to know about, especially as this ties in with Mastering Life Ministries? There's a lot to your story. Tell us what we should know about that brought you to the point where you call this a harrowing journey from sexual addiction. From where you were then to where you are now, how'd you get there, and then to write this book as well?
Well, I was an actor for 7 years. I 3 times people tried to murder me when I was hustling on the streets. And so I had some experiences of God rescuing me from death in such a way that I knew it was God. And I tell those stories in the book. And so even though I was hating him and doing everything I could to spite him, he kept rescuing me, and it put into me some hope that maybe he would love me after all. Maybe he would forgive me after all that I'd done. I had porn shot at my house. I was deeply addicted to pornography and sex addiction and things. And so after 7 years of acting in Hollywood, I realized that people flocked around me when I was having a success. They disappeared when I wasn't. The love I was looking for wasn't going to be attained that way. So sex was out, fame was out, fortune was out. So I turned back to God. I briefly followed a guru because I didn't want Christianity. I had a negative taste in my mouth over that. So I was hoping this guru was really the incarnation of Jesus that he claimed to be. Long story short, he did not turn out to be a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. So I got on a plane and flew to Israel to find Jesus in 1980 and found him there. I was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I was asking God, my guru can do miracles and you can do miracles, and how's somebody like me supposed to know who's really of God? What's the signpost for that? And he spoke into my spirit really clearly, and he said, who proved his love for you? And I had just been where he'd been whipped and dragged the cross and been crucified, and his proof that he loved me was right there in my face, a real demonstration to the max. Then I looked at the Buddha and Krishna and Muhammad and all these other people that I had become enamored of, and none of them had done anything of the sort. Only Christ had proven his love for me by going through all that torture for me. And then he proved that he was God by raising from the dead. So I flew back to LA, told everybody in the ashram that I was living in, they were following the Antichrist. They kicked me out the street, understandably, and I ended up at Hollywood Presbyterian Church asking the pastor, what am I going to do? I'm bound by sex addiction. I've been sleeping with 2 and 3 people a night for 10 years, and I can't just stop. I don't have the power. And he essentially said to me, that's good, you realize that. Now let's ask Jesus to do this for you. Why don't you call upon his power? And that was the greatest lesson I could have learned. And I was just newly saved. Nobody had gotten to me yet to tell me what God couldn't do. And so I just believed him. And I embraced the idea that God was going to come into my life and take away the power of sin for me as I remained in relationship with him. And that's how I got out.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So you went all the way to Jerusalem to find Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then
Yes.
you come back, and that's an amazing thing. What at that point then? Did you restart your life, or what happened? Because it's got to be a tough transition that you're making there as well, is it not?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to get fooled by another false prophet again. Mm-hmm. So I decided I'd go to a seminary for a year and get a biblical studies certificate or something like that. And so the pastor at Hollywood Pres recommended Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. I went there. This millionaire found out about my story. The guy who founded Tropicana Orange Juice found out about my story, and he paid for my whole 3-year MDiv.
Wow.
So the next 3 years after getting saved were spent deep in the Word of God.
Now, through that then, did you found Mastering Life Ministries, or how did this come about? And tell us what it does, actually. But is that how you got into the ministry business, so to speak?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a pastor, but nobody wanted a single pastor. They all kept telling me, come back when you're married. So I ended up in parachurch ministry. I worked for the 700 Club. I worked for YWAM. And then I started Mastering Life Ministries. As I was being healed and as God was showing me the way out for this problem and that problem and the other, I had a multitude of them. I started writing this stuff down, and finally I wrote it into a book called Sexual Healing, which came out in 1995. And that was what really founded Mastering Life Ministries, and it funded Mastering Life Ministries, the sales of that book, in 1987. And then God called me to be very honest about my sexually broken past. And I realized that as bad as my past was, it set other people free to confess their sins, which weren't as dark. And I realized I was being called to do this as a living.
Wow. And so how long have you had this ministry going on?
Well, since 1987. Okay. We've done radio shows. For the last 7 years, we've done a TV show called Pure Passion, and people can still watch it online at purepassion.us. And we have it all divided up by topic, so you can go quickly to the show of the topic of your interest, whether it's sex trafficking or sex addiction or homosexuality or whatever. And then in the last year, we've been working on a documentary, and I'm documenting the fact that Jesus Christ can set anyone free from anything. And I'm starting with homosexuality. And I brought together 29 voices from the gay lifestyle, testifying to the fact that Jesus Christ has brought healing into their life, many of whom are now married and with children. So there's real and lasting healing for this.
Wow. Well, tell you what, keep in touch with us. Let us know when that comes out, and we'll talk to you about that production as well. When might we see that at the theaters or elsewhere?
That will be out in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The website for that is suchweresomeofyou.org.
Okay. Well, we may be talking to you sooner than we thought then. That's great. Let me mention the book again. It's called Love Hunger, A Harrowing Journey from Sexual Addiction to True Fulfillment. And that's by David Kyle Foster. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.